with Watch Together. That's weird.
No. But the title of this one pisses me off.
Oh.
You don't hate bad writing, you hate being uncomfortable.
Who knows? Anyway, let's get going. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Smudcast number 865. You don't hate bad writing, you hate being uncomfortable. What a bold statement from some random guy on the internet. I wonder if we should cover this video. Will it be worth our time? Let's find out. This is from NatrixNate. NatrixNate, he has almost 7,000 subs. Good for him. And this came out 3 weeks ago with almost 9,000 views. Cool. I'm seeing a 90-ish% upvote, which is good ratio. So maybe some people agree with him. I don't know. Let's find out. It is a 14-minute video. Some of the comments are positive. Actually, a lot of them are, so I'm assuming that's the point. There's lots to say about when a writer goes too far, or a writer is being too creative, or later in their career, they sort of lose their touch, or another writer takes the reins. Lots of things can happen. Lore gets redone or retconned for the better, sometimes for the worse. So it really depends on the point that the writer is trying to get at. And I'm assuming he's referring to the same media, so not an adaptation. So comic books to comic books, so just different writer in certain cases. In my case, the stuff I've read over the years have been through books. They get adapted to the stage, or they get adapted to movies or TV. That's mostly stuff I know is from Agatha Christie, so a lot of her stage plays were designed for the stage, and they get adapted to whatever kind of live action stuff for film, and things get screwed up. And all the fans know that. All the fans look at this and go, this is weird. And sometimes the changes are really, really bad. I've never seen a change be like, hey, that's amazingly good. I'm glad they did that. It's always like, it's passable to bad, which is an adaptation issue, not necessarily a writing issue. So it depends who's doing the adaptation, which is the same change. Something changes that people don't like. And we're going to get into that hopefully in the video, and I'll bring examples up later. So 14 minutes. I think we should be okay. This won't take too long. And I think the volume's okay. We're all on the watch together. All right. I think we're ready.
Comic book fans so adverse to change. Now, going through social media and seeing the opinions of people in the same space as I am, something that I've noticed is that there is an underlying sense of contradiction to a lot of what they say. So if I'm going to go through a list, let's say some people think that comics stay the same, and because of that, they're stale. At the same time, though, when comics do change, these fans cry about bad writing, or character assassination, or there being an agenda being pushed. When there's a legacy character, like a Kyle Rayner or a Wally West, fans just start crying for the original to come back. And
well, there's plenty of
The problem is that even those characters were not legacy characters at first. They were written in a way that they were presented to the fans as something that was worth, pushing forward in terms of the actual stories that they were telling.
Sure.
And we were endeared by these new characters. Like these, Wally and Kyle have fan bases of their own at this point because they were new characters that were written well enough for fans to accept them.
Yeah, and I think every iteration of a archetype like the Flash differs as the decades go by, as the styles change, as the times change. So you sort of go, okay, I don't quite like this change because, I don't know, I like the older Flash better. His stories were more concise, and I like that time period better. But then times change, and then you go, okay, well, I guess this was a sign of the times for that character, which is a lot different than when you talk about what's happening now with comic books or what has happened in the past 10, 20 years with comics. So yes, you have to adapt to the times, but with comic books, it's always the same archetype. Let's use another iteration of the Flash, which isn't fine. You could do that. your intellectual property to do whatever you want with it.
Yeah, if comic book fans really did cry about change the way this guy is describing, it's like we wouldn't have as many Robins as we have.
Oh yeah,
And at this point, all of them have been accepted by fans. Even guys like Jason now as Red Hood, and Damien now, more recently, it was starting to be written more in a more endearing way, in a more human way, as opposed to just being ninja boy raised by the League of Assassins.
yeah. It's the element of, oh, this is new. Oh my God, this is not Robin. What is this? And they're trying to put this square peg into the round hole, and people are going, oh, why are you doing that? Just give us a Robin that's different.
And I'm just like the fact that we have as many Robins as we have, and all of them to some extent are liked by fans like us. It's like that disproves this whole argument, because they even managed to make Jason work eventually. That when they brought him back as the Red Hood, yeah, people didn't like him at first, and they wanted either Dick back or someone new. But then when they killed him off and then brought him back as Red Hood, they wrote him a lot better, and thus fans liked him more.
I'm going to say in Jason's
difference-
first run,
Yeah, I was gonna.
the fans voted for him to be killed because they preferred Dick.
But then when they brought him back,
Not as Robin, though.
no, but then when he brought him back, because if I remember correctly, Tim was Robin at that point already.
Yeah, it's
the fact that they brought him back as basically an entirely new character.
exactly. Like,
They tried something new. The problem isn't that fans aren't adverse to change. The problem is that we are adverse to some. we're against shit.
yeah, like when you look at
And Jason's return. Sorry to cut you off. Jason's return was at a point when the writers over there at DC, and a little bit in Marvel too, would try whatever they could to get something good out of characters that were disliked.
yeah, like if you imagine taking Batman and making him purposely change his rules and his methods. It's no longer Batman. It's just some guy dressed up as Batman without the same ideals. And people
like Zack Snyder's version, where he turned Superman into Batman, had him brooding all the time, and he turned Batman into the Punisher.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's too dark. Not to say that you can't do dark Batman. There's all kinds of dark Batman stories. And in some cases, people die as a result of Batman's actions, but that's always a huge thing to Bruce. He like freaks out that, oh my God, I couldn't save this person. He wants to save people. He wants to save them to rehabilitate or to put them away so they could find their own peace. If Batman suddenly became his dad in the alternate Earth, then it would just be crazy. It would just be...
With Bruce in particular, part of it is the fact that he wants to save everyone, but realizes that he can't.
Yeah, and people would flip. They would be like, "This is not Batman." Even the Batman of '89, he did kill people, but he was always sort of off to the side.
Yeah. The difference is that '89 was still presented well enough that it still made some kind of sense, despite that.
Yeah, it was always never the focus. It was just, oh, that's a funny thing, or that was a cinematic angle that that works. Like a guy falls down the bell tower, or he gets burnt to a crisp, or whatever. You're like, he just got really hurt, and it's not important because that's not the point of that story. And obviously, Tim Burton has a different attitude towards violence and comedy, without being a strict lore follower. So that is like, okay, we get it. Yeah, he probably shouldn't have done that, but it's not overtly, or it's not overtly blinding you with, oh my God, he just flame grilled like 50 people.
I'll give Burton this. Like he, with the exception of taking out the no kill rule, he still got the general idea of Batman across for the most part.
Yeah, I think so. And it's only after you go back and say, hey, did he just kill that guy? I think he like you're not sure, but it's like that guy must have died. You just never thought about it.
Oh yeah, to play devil's advocate with '89 specifically, it's like, yeah, we got adaptations later that stuck more closely to that core aspect of the character, like Arkham, for example, and that got people to go back and then like you explained, like go re-examine it, go through it again. It's like, yeah, did he just blow that guy up? It's like that kind of thing, but at the same time, it's a matter of the presentation.
Yeah, Arkham's a great example with the Bat Tank, or whatever you want to call the Batmobile at was it Arkham City Or
We've talked about it's not Arkham Knight, but we've already talked about that to death.
yeah.
But
So-
you get
drive
what
over people.
but you get my point, right?
Yeah, that's the vibe. It's like, is there a change? Why is there a change? What does it mean to the lore? How does that impact the character? And that's where you mentioned character assassination. And it's either character assassination or the character is completely aloof and has no idea what he's doing. And that's still a form of assassination. Like Batman should know that he's blowing people away with a missile launcher on his tank. So, but we have a Batman like that in an alternate story. So it's like, oh, maybe they're borrowing from that storyline. And how does that work in Arkham? We don't know. So it's one of those things that you're like, okay, there's so much lore. There's so many writers. There's so many decades of Batman. How does this fit with modern day Batman or Arkham Batman or Detective Comics Batman? So it's tough, especially with comics, with so many people involved.
Two famous examples of characters who ended up succeeding in the end. In the past, when these characters were new in their roles, people were crying for Hal Jordan to come back, crying for Barry Allen to come back, and then eventually, when they got accustomed to that change, then they started complaining when the writers and the publishing line found a way to meet fan demand, right? When they found a way in and they brought back the original, and at that point, they started clamoring again, saying that the story now has no stakes because they brought back the original character.
Okay, that's a very specific argument. I don't know.
That's on the writers. That's not on fan demand because, yeah, in that specific case, yeah, people did get used to Kyle Rayner, and it was the writers that went back and brought Hal back in the first place.
Yeah, so to say there's no stakes is very specific to a plot of the character and what he's trying to do and what he has to choose between, giving this up or choosing that path. I need more context. I need to know exactly what he's referring to because there could be multiple comics.
If I remember correctly, for context in the actual story, I think this was during the time where Hal was still parallaxed.
So in terms of what happened to Barry Allen, so Barry Allen
He died in Crisis.
Barry Allen was killed during Crisis on Infinite Earths when he ran too fast to destroy the antimatter cannon.
He sacrificed himself.
Yeah.
Well, him dying. Well, to be exact, him dying was.
I basically told you how he died. He ran so fast that he destabilized the antimatter cannon, and basically he was willing to kill him so that he'd save multiple universes. Anyway,
which also explains why. Which, if I can add one detail about that, that also explains why he showed up in different parts of the story as withering away, despite him still being alive in the early part and dead after. So just to clarify that,
he actually saw those scenes while he was doing the running. But yeah, at the time, Wally West was still Kid Flash. It was after they found Barry's empty uniform. And after they defeated the Anti-Monitor, that Wally West became the Flash.
Which also Psycho Pirate was the first one to find the costume too.
Yeah, but fast forward to Infinite Crisis, where Darkseid is dying.
Final Crisis.
Yeah, I get them mixed up. Final Crisis. Infinite Crisis is the middle one, isn't it?
Yeah.
I've read all three, and I get the middle and last part.
But the good going with your point. In Final Crisis, the new gods were getting fucked up, and Darkseid was dying. So go from there.
But wait a minute.
It was the fact. I remember. It's the fact that Barry came back from the Speed. Barry was being chased by the Black Racer in the Speed Force.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember why they went into the Speed Force during Final Crisis 4.
It was the fact that Barry had come back from the Speed Force after being chased by the Black Racer
They went into the Speed Force, and then they came out of it, and they said something about hearing a familiar voice, and then Barry came out a little later on.
And the Black Racer right after him.
Yeah.
And that story ends with the Flash's reprioritizing Black Racer's target from Barry to Darkseid.
Well,
Unless I'm getting it mixed up, did they hear the familiar voice when they took Superboy Prime into the Speed Force, and then
I think because that specifically was an Infinite Crisis because it was Wally, it was
Jay Garrick and Wally West.
no, and it, Max Mercury too.
Yeah.
Well,
Max Mercury, Wally, and Jay. No, it was Wally, Bart Allen, and Max Mercury that took Superboy Prime to the Speed Force, and then Bart came out with Barry's costume.
I would just like to bring it back to something more modern, where we have the trailers for the new Superman movie, and it's a different take on Superman, but it's nothing unheard of. It's not really making any breaks in lore. You know, Crypto is kind of weird, but yeah, he has a dog. We always knew that. We just never brought him to the screen. So there's lots of little takes there that are like, oh, this is different. Superman's not as powerful as we might think he is, but he's more human. He's more like Clark. And that's essentially what Superman is anyway. So everyone who's a fan is like, yeah, this is fine. It was good. I don't mind it. There's some nitpicks here and there, of course, as there always is. But I don't see that being a bad film if this is what we've seen so far. And it's such a, compared to the stuff that we've gotten from, what's his face again, Snyder, I welcome it. It's like, thankfully we have a positive human Superman who's just trying to get by, and he's not a god. He's not some amazingly strong dude. So I like that. I want that. I want to have some fun with my Superman movies again when I was a kid. So anyway.
Here it is. So Crisis on Infinite Earths happened in 1985. And it's looking at Final Crisis, it appears to have happened in 2012.
Around there, yeah.
All right.
So yeah, Barry Allen had been dead for, let's see, was that 20
close to years? Close to
quarter of a century.
Yeah, just 20 close to 25 years. And Wally for that entire time was the main Flash, and pretty much no one had an issue with that. Because it was built up and because it was earned.
That's basically, I think that's the issue people have when they say, in reference to Barry coming back, that the stakes seem to have gone because he's been dead all this time and they're just bringing him back.
Anyway,
there is an argument to be made on like them doing that big change and then going back on it. But again, that's not that's the issue is not with the fans there. That's with the writers going back on their word. Just like how they brought Hal from being Parallax.
All right, let's continue. Here's the Dark Seraph. Thank you, sir. Oh, how's it going? We just saw you last week. Change isn't inherently a bad thing unless that change comes from a stupid decision.
Yeah, because we've had a lot of adaptations of the Marvel and DC stuff that are pretty good, and adaptations in general change things all the time. Change isn't the issue; it's the execution, it's the presentation of it.
Yeah, I think that what it comes down to is how something is implemented. Not necessarily an adaptation, but any kind of writing that is causing a discrepancy that the fans know. Like, this is the thing when we talked about Batman, how he's what he is as a character, what he is as a character within a story, his rules, how he does things. If that suddenly changed, there has to be proper detail as to why that change occurs, and it could just be a temporary change. It happens a lot. So that would cause you to go, whoa, he could sit in the chair and know everything. That's going to screw things up, but it doesn't last too long, right? So it's just one little arc, and it goes away. So there's ways to do it. There's bad things. There's opportunities lost that you're like, wait a second, why did he just ask all the questions in the world, solve all the problems, blah blah blah. So there's all kinds of silly things that you can get into of why couldn't he do this? Why couldn't he just do that? And that's where, when you have too much power, when you have too much authority in your story, in your characters, that you begin to go, yep, this is becoming a rag. And that's why we bash so many stories, whether they're anime or manga or Western comics, because they overpower the characters, or they give them time travel abilities, or walking through wall, any kind of crazy ideas that comics are known for. We go, wait a second, that's too far. That's bad writing. And we know these tropes. We know these patterns. It's never a good idea to go too far in the power scaling. Okay.
Do you guys realize you were the same people that were arguing about them being changed in the first place, and now you're having this late realization that you didn't even want that before, right? But
okay, no, this is too disconnected. His argument's too loose, and his examples are not concrete. I want exactly what he's talking about and who he's targeting here for Barry Allen or whatever.
He's still on the point of
Problem is
Kyle
that
Rayner and
these-
Wally West.
So his target is the people who actually like this stuff.
I guess.
Yeah,
the-
because the job of the writer was to endear the readers to these new characters after they take over for the old characters. And they succeeded, but then they caved and doubled back on what they already did. Again, that's the issue with the writers, not the fans.
stories make certain audience members very uncomfortable, and their first response to this discomfort per se is to retaliate, to fight back, to kind of argue against what's being pushed onto them, right? And in my opinion, what I've realized, the more uncomfortable a run makes you feel, the more it challenges its reader to kind of engage with the material.
That's kind of silly. I mean, you could engage with material whether it's good or bad writing, so you can like something for whatever dumb reason. Okay, there's so many stories by authors that I like, and you guys have say, okay, this is a good story because they do something different, or this is the best example of this character being the character. So there's lots of those. I remember adaptations and original stories that I say, wait a second, this is not what was in the original. Like when I talk about, what are the two most famous, I don't know if you guys know, Agatha Christie stories, and Then There Were None was the biggest, and then the one everyone knows is the Murder on the Orient Express. That's the most famous one for people who know anything about murder mystery. And in that story, she has about 5 stories that are controversial. That's one of them. In that story, in case you don't know, everyone kills the victim. And Poirot, who is Mr. Justice, he always chooses on the side of justice. He has some weird line like either everyone did it or no one did it, and either I make you go through more suffering because their entire life they went through suffering, or I allow you to heal. So that's the one time, well, maybe not the only time, but the most strictest time where he did not choose justice. He chose to help people as opposed to getting these people to go to trial. And to a Poirot fan, that pissed off a lot of fans. It still does. And people think this is a great piece of work. This is brilliant. And everyone remembers the story. That doesn't mean it's a good story. That doesn't mean it's a good plot or a series of plots or a series of characters. In fact, it's kind of mediocre. It's nothing special. There's lots of Agatha Christie writes lots of stories on trains. There's lots of people where there's more than one victim or more than one murderer. It's not a big deal. But because we went through all the iterations of Poirot doing Poirot, and then at the end he goes, "Oh, you all did it." That's fine. It's what he does after the fact that pisses the actual fans, the fans who know better, who've read all her stuff, and go, "This is kind of stupid." And there's other stories where Poirot doesn't tell the police what happened because in some cases there wasn't a crime, it was self-defense, so there's no reason to bring that up and to put the family through all this hell. So there's stuff like that he doesn't do, which is not strict law, but he's also not stupid. He doesn't want to hurt people. In the adaptations, like the BBC, oh God, the crazy ones throughout the 70s, and now the what's his name? David Attenborough? Not David Attenborough. The other British bloke, the guy with the crazy handlebar mustache version of Poirot. He they changed his motives for doing it. In the BBC, Suchet was involved, so he believed heavily that Poirot was religious, so he believes in the good God, so he chose to lie to the police.
David Suchet?
Yeah, David Suchet. Yeah, he was a method actor, so he knows the character very well. And he said, well, Poirot would probably pull out his rosary and start praying. Like, I don't know about that. Probably not. So stuff like that, where the fans know better. And
is it Catholic?
He technically is, yeah.
The character, I mean?
Yeah, because he was a Belgian man. He was raised Catholic, and he was on the police force in Belgium, and then he came to the UK, and he started his life there. So, yes, he is God. He is religious. He refers to God many times. So he does believe in religion. But there's never really any indication he goes to church. I'm sure he's a good boy. He does. But that's not what the stories are about. So the fans know better. Suchet knows better because he's in the position of, well, I have to perform and do the best version of Poirot, and this is my take on it. Even though there's she wrote so many better stories, and everyone knew later in her years she was getting a little old, and her style was weak. Her plots were simpler, and some even argued she was having dementia because her stories were because she was the best in her 40s, and then she's dropped off a cliff. Not to say her stuff was bad, but even when she was later in life, her stories were still pretty good. So that's the thing with fans. Like, we pay attention, we listen, and everyone just remembers those two the most. And then There Were None and Murder on the Orient Express, even though. And then There Were None was pretty good, but it was a very specific plot with a unique twist. The same with Murder on the Orient Express. So they remember the unique stuff. That doesn't mean it's good. Okay? Unique or crazy twists that come out of nowhere are not necessarily good. And she has way better stories than that.
Stay along for the ride goes. These are the type of runs that become game-changing, right? The ones that really lead to great changes into the mythos of these characters.
That doesn't mean anything. That just means the writer decided to make a backstory, or give Batman a girlfriend or whatever. And then another writer comes by and just says, "Nope, you're not going to marry Selena. Sorry, we tried." Remember that the whole wedding with Selena Kyle, and then they went, "Yeah, nah." Selena says, "No, we need Batman more than we need me to love Bruce." It's like, okay.
I remember that. What, a single panel or a full page where the Joker was talking to Selena Kyle and saying that if he married her, then he wouldn't be Batman, and that the rogues, need Batman.
Yeah, something like it was always like, okay, well, I'm glad that this happened, but it reverts back to what it came before because the writer's done, the arc is finished, the plot line's done. The same with all the various changes to Superman, with the death of Superman, like how many times he died, red and blue Superman, that was a crazy thing. I can't remember all the iterations, but they just go back to the original because the original is iconic. That's what people want. And that's fine. Do what your fans want. That's totally fine.
But a lot of time people really want to put in the effort to stay with the book because they're so accustomed to what happened before. So say a Flash book, you expect the family aspect of these characters, right? The Flash family is big for a reason, right? But if you see another book after it where they completely change the vibe or the genre, people tend to turn their brain off and say, no, this is not what I paid for, which is totally valid, of course, but to completely
valid.
Yeah.
But he's just started on a tangent where he's going to explain why it's not valid at all.
Yeah.
Write a run and say that it's garbage, to say that it's horrible, just because it pulled out a certain feeling in you that you didn't like. In my opinion, I can call you out on that. That is not valid in the slightest. Of course.
Okay, why?
See, I called it. I fucking called it. People are allowed to not like things. Good God, what is wrong with you?
The thing that this is like going to McDonald's and ordering a Big Mac and they give you the I can't believe it's not beef burger or whatever the hell they're called. And
nah, it's like done. Yeah, it's like going to McDonald's or a Big Mac. Then they tell you, sir, this is a Wendy's.
No, it's worse than that. It's like we'll give you chicken McNuggets as opposed to a hamburger. I'm like, what? I didn't order chicken. What are you talking about? Like, what? You're like, I specifically ordered, oh yeah, but our Big Macs are now chicken burgers or chicken nugget burgers or whatever. You're like, what? That's stupid. Like, what?
Yeah. How about you go McFuck yourself?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, well, sir, it's still protein. Like, I don't care if it's still. I ordered exactly what I ordered. Don't give me something else.
Of course, not everything is made for everybody, but to say that something is bad because it doesn't fit a certain genre that you're expecting is such a limiting way.
Are you retarded, sir?
John.
If I expect to watch Star Trek, which is a science fiction show, and I get a romance in the medieval period where there's no technology and, I don't know, they just forget to do the whole Star Trek themes of Kirk and Spock helping each other out, I'm going to either be very pissed off or they're going to have to give me something. Now, that's a great example because there is a time, or there is a original TOS episode, which is the best episode of the series, written by Harlan Ellison, which was bastardized throughout the months, because it took months to write because the committee didn't like it. That was A City on the Edge of Forever, I believe it was called. It was two-parter. I can't remember. Anyway, they go back in time, some issue, I think the 1930s, to prevent something to happen. So the woman that Kirk falls in love with has to die, or else the world will change. So this had to happen. And this is not your traditional science fiction plot with Star Trek. Where Star Trek, where they go to a new foreign planet, they meet some alien, there's some conflict. They have to resolve that with either diplomacy or technology, and everyone goes off on their merry way. This is going back in time to Earth in 1930s, and they got to deal with an emotional issue between Kirk and a woman, and Spock and McCoy are there, and they're all involved. Like it's one of these heart-wrenching stories that is set up through time travel, which is a very difficult thing to do. So that
Next point in history, Kirk. The Doctor says there's nothing we can do.
that I could save her, Jim. Why did you stop me? Yeah, it was great. So it was about the characters and the same mode that the characters would have operated under if they were in the future solving an alien problem, and they were there in the past trying to maintain the timeline and allowing this woman to die so everything could keep going on. So that is still conflict. That is why we read these stories or watch these shows, to see where these characters will go with their character. And if they have to change, that change has to make sense. So yeah, it's not your typical story with the limited budget of the time period for Gene Roddenberry, but it worked. And they knew it was going to work because Harlan Ellison was a genius, and he was working on this script for like months on end, and they kept getting shot down and changed, and he got pissed off and he left, and then they butchered it again, and all this jazz. But it ended up being the best story, probably because it went through so many iterations and smoothed out and figured out and what they can do because the budget wasn't there for the original script. And that was the problem, so they had to keep chopping stuff up and changing the story. And, of course, the original writer got pissed off because Harlan Ellison's a hothead. But, I think it took like 8 months. But they finally got it done, and it was the best recorded story out of all the originals. So that just means that's a very good piece of writing because it was massaged and edited so much. So I always make the argument that it doesn't matter what your ideas are so long as the editor sees them and cleans them up. And that was the most edited piece of script from, I would say, in Paramount at the time for a Star Trek episode. So even if it's controversial, even if it has lore-breaking or genre-changing stories like romance, which is not, it's not more of a subgenre in the old Star Trek series, it still worked. So, see, if I was going to say the analogy of the food with the burger. If I get my, they gave me my Big Mac and just gave me a side order of chicken McNuggets, I'd be fine. That'd be fine.
And also, I'm sorry, but when fans come into an established franchise with characters they know and love, they generally expect those characters to still be as part of the story, that if it's a continuation of the story, that involves those characters, they generally just expect to have those characters there. It'd be like if there was a Mass Effect sequel and it didn't have any of the companions, or if, for example, you made Captain, is it Anderson? I forgot his name.
Admiral Anderson, yeah.
Yeah, if you made him into a representative for Earth, but then they made Ambassador Udina the representative for Earth between Mass Effect and a hypothetical sequel.
Wait a minute.
People would find that just difficult to swallow, because it would basically be telling people that their choices don't matter.
Oh, that's exactly the point. I think that you got it.
That's exactly what 3 did.
It would basically. It would also make Admiral Anders a bit of a little bitch for. He'd be a completely different character to what he is, instead of being the character we know and love, no bullshit person who never backs down, even at the cost of his career and potential freedom.
Yeah, it's the same with.
He's just someone who backs down like a bitch.
Yeah, the BioWare team bit off more than they could chew. I mean, that's a great example. Anderson. There's the Arachnite Queen. There's the Collector Base. There's the romance choices. There's deaths. Certain squad mates like Kasumi and Zaid. They made no changes. Like, yeah, there's all kinds of stupid shit that they did that pissed people off, and that became part of the norm. Is they don't have a big enough budget. They didn't have enough time. Blah blah blah. It's like, no, they didn't care. They screwed it up. They shat all over the script or the plot.
Yeah, Mass Effect 2 is not a real sequel. It's not really canon, because it doesn't properly follow on from Mass Effect. So we're still waiting for a sequel to Mass Effect.
Yeah, well, yeah. We've given up a lot. We've given up a long time ago. Anyway, 3 minutes in.
Comics is the best medium just because it leads to so much different just integrations of genres, different integrations of writing styles, right?
Integration. What does he mean by integrations of genres?
Gaming is the best medium.
Doesn't he mean multiple genres or subgenres?
I assume he meant integration.
I don't know what I can integrate an adventure with the mystery, with the romance, well, you can try, but it doesn't mean it's going to be good writing. This is the whole argument with Marvel, in that they are good, or at least good enough to make sense of using multiple genres to the limit they can within a 2-hour movie experience, like the Avengers or whatever. So that worked, but then they kept using that formula and kept making crap with bad storylines or bad plots, and it didn't work for whatever. I haven't watched the modern Marvel movies, so I don't know, but there's a limit to what you can do with the writers involved, obviously.
Dime, your favorite character can go from street level to cosmic to supernatural to crime noir to whatever the writer wants, and limiting them to a certain category just feels like a disservice.
Okay, there's a reason why that works with Batman, because there's writers who can do that genre, and they take Batman and they put him in Victorian England, like steampunk or whatever. They bring him to like the future, whatever. There's all kinds of Batman stories because the writer knew the genre. They say, oh, how would I adapt Batman to that? Let's figure that out.
Ultimately, Batman is a detective, and all of these things you can picture a detective being in.
Yeah, and you wouldn't just take the existing Batman and then just mesh it into sci-fi or medieval. It would have to be like he goes there and that becomes its own thing, or he started there. Like, what are those crazy Japan, like Japanese Ninja Batman, all these other weird stuff. I'm like, what is that? I have no idea.
Batman Ninja.
Yeah, I was like, whoa, that is weird. So, does it work?
Even going into the future, he's still a detective. He's just using advanced tech that can do even more than he can in a modern day.
Yeah, and these are all outside of the canon. This is all one writer comes in, hey, can I do this? No, you can't, but you can give you your own stint. We'll call it Elseworld. We'll call it, Batman Ninja, whatever. And that's its own thing. Nothing to do with continuity. And that's fine. No one cares.
Medium of comics, right? I know that there is things like a character Bible, right? Character Bibles are expected to kind of keep the synchronicity of the...
There are things like a character Bible.
Yeah, his
Sorry, I'm just being pedantic, but
his verbs are, I know.
There's a lot of pronunciation and grammar,
the whole-
so I'd look past that at this point.
Yeah. Let him go.
the whole video is being frustrating. So
When you start nitpicking the grammar, we're like, okay, yeah, we got some problems here.
character, right? To keep it somewhat the same. And it tells the writers what they should and they shouldn't do, right? It's what is expected of them, what these characters are known for. For example, let me talk about Peter Parker. He has brown hair, he shoots webs out of his web shooters, and he has something called the Parker Luck. And what that is, to the uninitiated, is whenever something is going right in Peter's life, something bad is eventually going to happen. These are staples to the Peter Parker character that can't really be changed. And yes, these character Bibles are something that's available for most of the more popular characters and something most writers go back to, but it isn't the end-all be-all. If that was the case, these characters wouldn't be able to develop and change. Something that I've...
No, the very core of a person doesn't. Unless there's some life-shattering thing where you get traumatized, but that can break you or make you into something better. That is, however, something special. When you talk about multiverse stuff, like different variations of the same character, the character in a different setting, the roles we've reversed with the villain, that is not exactly the same character. That's a spin on the core. But that's not the actual core character. That's all that is.
And again, the Elseworlds label exists for that very reason.
Exactly. And this is not a thing about, oh, you hate being uncomfortable. No, we do hate bad writing. Being uncomfortable is something you can do with good writing as well. If you, like, for example, it's going into the horror genre for that matter, but the Nick Cage double feature Mandy is extremely uncomfortable. If that movie doesn't make you uncomfortable, especially the first half, which is a psycho thriller, then something's wrong with you. But that thing is supposed to make you uncomfortable. Of course, it's not due to turning around an established character, but that is being uncomfortable in an intended way.
Well, I always liked the idea with Spider-Man with Secret Wars, where they introduced the symbiote, and he was in his black suit doing things he probably shouldn't have been doing. And then you're going, whoa, Peter, what's going on? Oh, he's being mind controlled, or he's being influenced by the suit. And it's this whole thing that spawns all kinds of other plots and characters that he has to deal with. And now we have these characters as a result of the symbiote that are pretty much mainstream now. And that's how you go. You introduce an element that challenges the character of the character. He goes, wait a second, what do I do? Do I with it? Do I run away from it? Do I challenge it? And then he goes back to being his original self in some capacity while having grown stronger as a result. And now we have this history of lore that adds to it. The same way you add villains to the arcs, and they're still around. And we have all kinds of rogue galleries from Batman to Marvel to who knows how many other comic books out there of bad guys challenging the heroes to bring them back to fight another day. So you need the conflict. You need the character moments. And the problem with comics, as we always say, they go to a certain point that there's too much lore, there's too much at stake. We have to start again. We have to go to another alternate universe. We have to reboot the timeline or whatever the case may be, because there's too much stuff. And
just want to do a quick fact check. Ginga, in the comics, the original run, was the Venom symbiote making Pete Parker do villainous things before he got rid of it?
If at all, much closer to when he got rid of it. because that would have contributed to that being the final straw for getting rid of the symbiote altogether.
I remember a story where allegedly the artist who did the suit got tired of doing the black suit and wanted to go back to red and blue.
And yet that argument kind of falls apart, concerning the fact that even after he got rid of the actual alien costume, he still had a cloth version that Black Cat made for him.
And allegedly, it's the 90s cartoon series that adapted the Venom symbiote as making him the villainous things, but
one of the last things he did before getting rid of the suit was mop the floor with Rhino.
I was just thinking, since you're more knowledgeable on this stuff, you'd have a more accurate take.
Yeah, like Peter losing more of his self-control is a factor for him getting rid of the symbiote, but in terms of actually stopping actually drawing the suit altogether, the excuse for getting rid of the cloth version after that was that they had Venom traumatize MJ and convince Peter to get rid of the cloth version of the suit.
Interesting.
It's like, because Venom went to their apartment and was expecting Peter, but took the opportunity to scare the shit out of MJ to get to Peter anyway.
All right.
Seen a lot of people were very against Batman in the 2000s. Now, Batman in the 2000s is written by all-star writers. I'm telling you, like Ed Brubaker, Greg Rucka, Devin Grayson, and the whole lot, right? Scott Beatty was in there. There was some Jeff Loeb. But these were the writers of Batman. And in this period of time, instead of being the more pulpy type of comics from yesteryear, what they did was make it fully lean into the crime noir aspect of Batman. And because of this, they really made some gritty choices that eventually piled itself onto Batman. All of these bad things just went at Batman one after the other, to the point where there was a breaking point, right? And this eventually changed his behavior, and people did not like that. But I'm going to ask you a question. If all these bad things happen to you in your life, will you stay the same person, or will there be some sort of out-of-character moment? Out-of-character moments aren't necessarily bad if there's a precedent to...
I have a feeling he has no idea what a plot line is, and he's trying to explain that as best he can. Like, he's going through the motions. Because when we talk about plots, we say, okay, we come to a climax. In that climax, the character makes a choice, and they choose to do one of four things. And it's positive, negative, neutral, or they run away. And then they become that new character. And those are usually the better stories, or the more memorable stories, because something that change is big. It's a big thing that happens to them. So the writer of a serial like Batman has to know what they can and cannot do, and get permission to do the big thing, so that they can say, okay, I'm going to turn Superman into red and blue. And you're like, what? You want to do what? And then they have to figure out whether that's a good idea, or whether it's worth their time, or whether we should fire this guy. So, yeah, plot lines have an arc. They have a whole dramatic motion, and the character has to change. And if they don't change, then you've wasted everyone's time. Outside of having some entertainment that is action-packed.
Well, the question with storylines like that, like the one he mentions, is that still in line with the character? Because Batman is constantly being tested to his limits of what he can stand, how he can abide by his code anyway. Yeah. And that is the point. It's more extreme with Superman, who always remains virtuous. But there always needs to be a return to that for these iconic characters.
Yeah.
Like when you can elaborate on the details better, Gingerman probably. When Captain America put down the mantle because he didn't feel that he could stand for the government in line, because that was the problem. Took on a different name for a period of time until he realized, it's actually about the virtues of the country, not about the government. Yeah, that he represents America as himself, the virtues, the ideas, and not the government. And that's how you resolve an inner conflict like that.
Yeah, they made that change to the character as an in-universe development to for how he saw that whole outlook.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they gave that change to his outlook so that he would properly represent what he was created for, essentially, and to have to broaden that meaning of who and what he is and what he stands for.
Yeah, in the same way, Batman always must stay or return to doing things by the book, because he is the last bastion of justice in a corrupt world.
All right.
In the first place, and people fully writing off this era is so horrible to me, considering that these writers not only created some of the best Batman work of all time that goes really underappreciated, but if you look at it, these writers know how to write Batman well. From their previous work, they can write him well. In these runs, they wrote him well. And this shift does eventually happen, but you could see that they can write the character well. It's not that they're misinterpreting Bruce himself, they're building something up. And if you had any sort of intelligible part in your body, you would realize...
All right, we don't have to go that far, buddy. Come on.
That this was the start of a character arc that they fully did. There was a complete loop, and it brought Batman into a better place, and it led to more character work for Bruce that led to him being one of, if not the most interesting character in his series, and probably one of the most interesting periods of Batman's character in his entire publication history, which in and of itself, it does seem like a no-brainer, right? Your main character should be very interesting and the most interesting character, but Batman, you have to realize he has some of the best supporting casts and the best villains of all time. And in some sort of mush, since we're already acclimated to Batman, there are going to be moments where a guest character or a character that doesn't show up all the time appears and of course steals the spotlight. Bruce at that point in time was so interesting to me, and he still is, of course. He's my favorite fictional character, and there are moments in the Morrison era of Batman that are as good if not better, but that period of time has really stuck with me to the...
What up, Pang? But I'm on the your end, so with him.
Well, that...
Well,
I thought I heard...
What did you say?
I thought I heard a banging noise. I was just going to ask whether it on one of your ends or with him.
Yeah, he banged a hand into his desk. Yeah, that was the video.
Why would he need to do that?
His voice didn't sound to be that angry.
It's not like it's making much of a point.
Which is why I have no idea why he banged his desk for no reason.
Does he really like Morrison?
Maybe something fell off the table.
Well, maybe being enthusiastic that he really, really likes Morrison's run.
Which, I mean, well, yeah, to go back to the video, yeah, Morrison did some good things with the character, but at the same time, it's like, take it easy there.
Really frustrated when I see people write it off, but in my effort to rationalize this, I feel like the reason why people really didn't like it is because of, hear me out, Batman memes. Now, there are a lot of Batman memes that say that Batman is a bad father, that he will break every bone in your body to the point where you have $100,000 in medical bills, to I don't know, breaking all of your limbs for jaywalking or something. I don't know, but these are the type of memes that kind of get pushed into the mainstream, right? And anybody with any sort of Batman understanding knows that these are jokes. Batman goes for the most efficient and effective method of taking down his enemies, I don't know, taking a pressure point to the shoulder and then making them fall in an instant. That's what Batman would do. But these people, when they see this getting pushed, when they see this narrative getting pushed, they want to fight back against it just because it reminds them. Seeing Batman written in this kind of negative and self-destructive way kind of reminds them of these memes, and because of that, they don't want to have any sort of canon material reflect all of these, I guess, slanderous.
Are we arguing seriously about how people react to social media posts with memes? Is that what he's arguing?
Yes.
It sounds like he's arguing against memes that are just flat out wrong with stuff of characters.
And
It's
that
like,
the memes reflect back into the actual comics.
This is
Is arguing about how people, make fun of the characters that they like.
yeah. This is I think this is like the 6th or 7th time we've covered a guy who starts arguing against like Twitter or X over the years. All the fans are doing the thing with the memes. Why? It's like, yeah, it's social media. Who cares?
Because they like the characters, and there's funny things about the characters that, when you think about it, there's a lot of layers. There's a lot of layers to it where you think that if the Batman kills the Joker, that might be a net positive, but also at the same time, if Batman kills the Joker, that opens the door to the Batman killing the next guy who's, Victor Zsasz, for example, and then killing the next guy who appears to be a rampant psychopath.
Yeah, the joke with Batman is if only he just
killing everyone.
Yeah, if only he just killed the bad guys, they wouldn't have these problems anymore. But obviously, that would undermine Batman as a character. So it's this obvious thing that the common man would be like, yeah, just kill this guy. He's a psychopath. He's been murdering everyone for decades. Get rid of him.
Yeah, the point is that Batman has a very, 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 very high bar for that. He's not the Punisher. That's the point.
Yeah.
Batman still believes the institutions can work. They can be corrected. They're just beyond what they can bear. But the moment that the institutions don't work anymore, that they become too corrupt, that's when you need the Punisher. That's when Batman doesn't work anymore. As long as Batman believes the institutions work, he will work by the book. And because when things are so corrupt, things have basically fallen down to natural law, and higher forms of justice don't work anymore. Batman is the one who wants to uphold higher forms of justice, that things can go back there. He keeps the foot in the door to that. That's the entire point. And that is the big question of Batman. What is his breaking point? And that's what the Killing Joke is about.
All right, we're at 8 minutes and 30 seconds. He hasn't really said anything controversial. He just sort of wants people to agree with him, and because he thinks he's right. That's all I'm getting from him so far.
Yeah. So there's the memes reflecting back into canon stories, if you will. That had happened in Warhammer to its detriment, with a lot of the jokes about Drazen the Infinite, that basically turned him into a joke. It's not very well written.
That's a fault of the writer then. It's not a...
That is a general fault of writers in Games Workshop. The problem is those are abundant in Western media.
All right.
Mature Batman, even though as a huge Batman fan, of course, the #1 Batman glazer, if you've been here for a while, you know what that means. But I just see it as jokes. Of course, some people are going to have a very negative reaction to this getting pushed. Post-production Natrix here, just stopping by to say that 90% of you guys are not subscribed. Remember, another example that I noticed that really ticked me off was there was this panel on the DC subreddit.
Just on that one. Your channel is too small to bicker about that part. Seriously. Show some humility.
If you play Torn, you will never stop playing Torn because it's a highly addictive RGP. What the fuck is an RGP?
Let it go.
What?
Let it go.
I will not let it go.
It's a rocket grenade propeller?
What? Anyway.
RPG, what?
Posted Superboy Jonathan Kent this panel from the Rebirth era of Superman where his cat got stolen by this bird did a drive-by, brother. This bird took his cat. And as anyone would, he got very mad. And Kryptonians, when they get mad, their eyes turn red. And he tried to shoot, maybe not even tried, it could have just been like subconscious, but he shot a heat vision beam at the bird. But he has no training, right? If you were a Kryptonian, you would assume that your beam would just get the bird, right? Become narrow enough to get the bird. But it became an entire explosive blast that not only incinerated the bird itself, but also his cat. And he just ended up bawling his eyes out until the heat went away. And this is one of those things that Tomasi and Gleason used as character development to show Jonathan that he.
That's okay.
That's what happened with Clark. When Clark first learned to use his heat vision, it was difficult for him to control it. It happened when he got angry or horny or for numerous emotional reasons.
It was exactly.
He had difficulty controlling it.
Yeah, that was.
And it was only when he learned, he trained with it, he practiced with it, that he was able to focus it.
Yeah, that was a lore thing, and even in Smallville, they made that when he got aroused, he started burning holes. It was kind of funny when his dad was training him, and it was like, look what I can do. It's like, yeah, you got horny by lighting a scarecrow on fire. That's fantastic, Clark. Okay.
And it's a good explanation on why Superman is so good at controlling his emotions, and yeah,
why not?
Why it takes so much to get him
this
raised up,
entire
because he's doing this entire
is
life.
Essentially made out of cardboard, if you want to like relate it back to Justice League Unlimited, one of my favorite shows of all time. But you can't ever lose your cool. You are a Kryptonian. You have to realize the severity of your actions. Everything you do will have consequences, and because of how powerful you are, that's like 10 times so, right? You just stomping because you're mad on a bad day could just shatter the entire continent. So he has to realize this, and people were really pressed in the comments, people who didn't read this book, and they're like, why would they do this to the cat? This is bad writing, blah, 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 blah. They should have just killed the bird.
Okay, are we seriously using Reddit as a punching bag right now? And their takes? Do we care?
Don't go to Reddit for opinions. You will get the most brainless things there, because the people posting there actually have missing parts of their brains, as they've proven by posting their own brain scans that missed parts of their brains.
Okay.
As a cat owner who just lost a cat recently, I was so traumatized by this.
No, but also to be fair, it's like at least he has Clark to help him. As opposed to Clark having his dad.
All right. Bottom of the barrel arguments. Okay. You won.
Yeah, there are dumb people out there.
Killing the bird would have done nothing because he just wanted his cat back. Second of all, yes, the cat did die, and that is unfortunate, but how else would he have such a stark contrast in the way he thinks? How would he completely pivot from this?
I don't know. Don't kill the cat. I mean, lots of things could have happened.
It's okay.
They could have had him fly instead. How about that?
The point is that something goes wrong, and he learns from that error. It has a deep emotional connection. He's right to complain about these people being dumb. It's just that don't bother with these dumb people.
Yeah.
I was going to say I actually think it's a good choice to make him kill both the bird and the cat, because it's a thing he'll regret and he'll carry it on. It's a lesson it's a hard lesson he has to learn.
Right.
And he carries it with him to the future, becomes stronger for it.
Yeah, this is not even worth. I mean, we get what he's doing. It's like, why are you doing this? we understand.
Childish mindset that he has without something traumatic.
My real question is, why the fuck did he go to Reddit?
Yeah.
Happening to him, that was all his fault. Just because there's a lot of edgy, grimdark things that are coming out recently doesn't mean that the most hopeful of characters can't have conflict. Superman as a character, he is not just all hope core that people are kind of pushing online, that Superman is just hope.
Well, he has to start somewhere.
Superman, yes, he is a man of hope, but you have to realize, just like...
A man of hope. That's trying to wrap my
Hope
brain
man.
around that, yeah.
He appeared
I thought
not in
Man of
Hope
Steel.
comics, he appeared in Action comics. He is a man of action. And because of this, he's not just going to talk to a bully. If there's a dictator, he is going to punch down. He's the champion of the oppressed. And how do you be...
If there's a dictator, he's going to punch down? What does that mean?
Well, of course Superman punches down, because he's Superman. There's not supposed to be anyone above him, so punching down is all he can do.
Well, if you're saying there's a dictator.
Unless something like Doomsday comes along, that's difficult.
I know, but when you're referring to government and Superman's on the scene and he's not part of that government, what does punching down mean? Is he punching the citizens? Is he punching the politicians? Is he only like what's above the dictator? I don't understand.
It's a weird phrasing, but and yes, of course he needs to be a man of action, because somebody who doesn't take action can't inspire hope, because that's just somebody who babbles and has nothing behind his words. It's just hot air.
I punch the dictator and I cause hope to I don't know. It's okay.
A champion of the oppressed. You liberate. You fight those who disrespect the rights of others. You're not only a shield for the people, but also a sword. That's what Superman is.
Okay.
He's not just gonna have like this nice dilly-dally talk to you just because, I don't know, he's just like this super duper.
No, he does give you the nice, happy, dilly-dally, whatever he's just said about democracy and peace and blah, 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 because he's
The reason
Superman.
people listen to what Superman says is because he is a weapon.
Yeah. It's like,
He wants to punch you. You listen to him because he can punch you and you can't really punch back. That's the reason. He bullies people into being good. That's the most edgy thing I'm gonna say.
all right, here's Mr. Nick Gurr. How you doing, Nick? Oh, no. I found gay retardation on gayretardcollaborative.com. You went to Reddit and found stupid takes. These people are such annoying apologists. Canon is limiting. So is your thinking capacity. If he was doing okay, even if we didn't like how he argued, why did he have to bring up Reddit? Just argue the point. Don't give dumb takes and look at this idiot. He's an idiot. It's like, thanks.
Nice guy that we see in like all this like fan stuff. Yes, he's one of the most relatable and understanding heroes in the DC universe, but if he sees you on a killing spree, he's not just gonna talk to you and be like a giant sunshine. Like, like he is a superhero at the end of the day. And as
he's also a big ball of giant sunshine at the end of the days too. Like he's Clark. He's a nice guy. He's a mild-mannered reporter. That's it. That's his character.
you have to take action. You have to fight. You're not just going to deal with the best of humanity. As someone who has super hearing, you hear all of the worst aspects of the world, and because of your morals, your foundation, how you were raised, you still keep your head up high because you know the potential of what humans can really be. That's what Superman is. He is a light in the darkness. He isn't compelling if everything around him is bright. What makes Superman interesting is that he is the one source of truth and justice in a world that's...
So what if we make Superman evil and crazy and psychopathic? Would you like that change? Because your whole...
it's called injustice.
Yeah, I know, but his whole argument is like, oh, the fans don't like change, and change is bad, but change is good because I said... Okay, then where are you going with this? What's the point of...
Injustice, Red Star Superman? The Russian one? The Crime Syndicate, the Justice Lords... Yeah, there's a lot of evil Superman.
Yeah, and no one is the fans aren't going, oh, this is horrible Superman. No, it's like it's basically an alternate universe.
Yeah, there's no complaint because the vast majority of them, if not all of them, are alternate universes or Elseworlds.
Yeah.
It's like that. Even Injustice 1 had obviously like the evil Superman that was the dictator, but in that first story, they had the prime versions of the characters to have that contrast, that intentional contrast to straight up tell the players, yeah, these guys are not the prime versions. The prime versions are coming over here to clean house.
All right. Minute left.
Fashionable in a world that would rather turn a blind eye to all of this injustice. He fights it head on as a champion of the people. That's what makes him compelling. It's not out of character because he does this. he has his bad days too. He also lashes out.
I'm not understanding why he's even going through this line of thinking. We know who Superman is. We don't have that problem. No one does. What? How did we get from was it Superman's kid killing a cat to Superman? How did we get from here to there?
I think he's just meandering.
Yeah.
He doesn't really have a red thread.
He just rambled on. We're like, okay.
Makes him Superman is that he ends up holding it back when it matters most. But overall, guys, what do you think? What are some of the most...
What? You didn't go anywhere.
Dear God.
What's the point of this past 4 minutes?
Most annoying interactions you've had with the fandom? What?
Oh my... What? What? No, dude. Come on.
This guy is an idiot.
You don't
Were you channeling your inner Mr. Plinkett there?
I don't like the fans. I'm going to talk about people. Dude, come on. Give me an argument. Give me something.
Don't just imitate the Babel channels, but write this stuff out beforehand and check whether you are actually making a point, because you aren't.
All right.
I was trying to replicate someone speaking on a radio.
I hope there's some memes or something. That was kind of a silly take on things. All right. What do we got here? Legacy. The alphabet spaghetti mob allies right would take I Have No Mouth and I'm a Scream into an optimistic comedy? Really?
That's stupid.
I don't know what that has to do with Transformers. Is that a Transformer?
Looks like one.
Yeah, I don't know how that.
Hold on, let me get there. I can tell you.
Yeah, I don't think that relates to Harlan Ellison's story. So
that the first one, yeah, that's Transformers.
yeah. I was like, okay, so how does this relate to the Harlan Ellison story? I Have No Mouth and I'm a Scream.
I'm trying to remember if that's IDW or Skybound.
All right.
Damn.
What do we got here? The. Okay. Very fancy T.
Yeah, writer's block. Wonderful.
Nope, don't like that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What's this? What?
No clue.
What is this?
I don't. The context missing.
Yeah. Okay. I'm going to take a wild guess and say that that's your nemesis. Got it. In 1, Dr. Eggman is a mad mechanical genius out to conquer the world. Bald 2, Superman has one of those back home. Okay.
We have Lex Luthor at home.
Thanks for lending a helping hand. The same goes for all of you.
Oh!
You did what?
Jared.
What?
All these crossovers.
Jimmy Olsen. Jimmy, this gift you got me for Father's Day makes me sorry I ever adopted you as my son. I'll have to destroy it to teach you a lesson. But Superman, I mean, Dad, what did I do wrong? What the hell? The son of Superman. Woo, boy. I forgot that plot line. It's almost as if Superman is punishing me for being a bad girl. Ow. What? I don't even know.
I think that's Lois Lane.
All right. You chuds need to stop whining about wokeness and criticize bad writing. But when we do criticize the writing, you claim bad writing is a dog whistle for bigotry.
Exposing the double standard.
These aren't mutually exclusive. We could do both. It's okay.
It's not a double standard. It's gaslighting, distraction.
You chuds lack the media literacy. Oh, here's that term again. Media literacy to handle this complex and intricate writing. The writing in question.
Oh.
Ooh. Look,
Ouch.
everyone, I'm projecting. I'm not even sure what this video was about, honestly.
Yeah.
Social media, or he just doesn't like people's takes. I'm not sure. My writing is so bad. Disney, somehow Palpatine returned. Me. My writing is pretty good, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The bar is so low.
I mean,
We have to
after
dig.
episode 7, yeah, it was just downhill from there. So
Are there any hills left?
Talking about why racism is bad in an essay because you need a good grade versus writing the counter argument. Don't know what class. What class are you in? We have to do a stupid essay like that. All right. Am I out of touch? Is this is the second time everyone hated The Last of Us 2, saying the writing was bad? No, clearly the audience is misogynistic.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
That must be it. Yeah.
Where is my super suit?
Okay, Frozone joke out of nowhere.
Yeah.
No idea.
Me stoned out of my mind, waiting for Martin Luther King Jr. to come down the chimney.
Sure.
I'm lost.
I don't know. What? Oh, is that
Bully
Thor?
Maguire.
Or is
Paul
that?
McGuire.
No, I know who it is. Is that a
I
reference?
think that
Spider-Man
yeah.
3.
Shazam?
No. He means the other thing. I think the other thing might be Thor.
Yeah, Thor or Shazam. I have no idea.
Yeah, either For the Dark World or one of the Shazams.
It might.
looks like
It might be
Dark
Dark World.
World.
It might be Dark World actually.
I just don't know what it means.
Yeah.
Me choosing to become Bully McGuire, choosing to have a normal lifestyle.
I love the Spider-Man memes here, just because of that one mention in the video.
Peter Parker becomes evil. He answers the phone with shalom. You guys will think I'm fucking with you, but go watch that scene right now.
That's kind of what he does.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Oh shit! It really does. It
Yeah,
really
it
does
is.
go to
It's like I saw that. I rewatched that movie with the editor's cut. It's like, yeah, that's it. I remember that scene's still there, and that's kind of what he does.
Yes, I remember this because it happened right after the death of Superman.
Oh yeah, Superman Red and Blue. Oh
yeah, that was a thing.
If nothing else, we got the animated series right after.
But it's not black, and it's rather silly looking. I just want to die. That's great. Why isn't it black, Peter? Me listening to Stop Tubers? What's a Stop Tuber?
Slop.
Well, that's an
Slop
L. I'm sorry, I was too
tubers.
far away. Slop Tubers whining about how limiting and soul-crushing keeping to canon is for writers. Yeah. Written by Frank Miller. I'm loyal to nothing, General, except the dream.
Good man.
And here's a picture of what I assume to be NatrixNate.
Oh, yeah? I have no idea.
Really?
That's better than everyone that disagrees with me is a Nutsi.
Yeah, well. Can only apply Godwin's law once a day before your brain turns to mush.
If anything, Godwin's hammer.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Godwin's law is active all the time.
Yeah, okay. Well, I turned it off because I can't take it.
It's the longer discussion goes on, the more likely it is to happen.
Yeah, I know.
That's it. That's literally it.
I'm going through a lot of weird political crap this month. I can't take it. I just gotta turn the TV off. The woker be like, why so queerious?
Yes. That one's like, ooh, but at the same time, it's hilarious.
That is actually good.
The woker.
And that's the worst part. It's actually a good meme.
All right. Me after beating an old homeless woman half to death, she can now sleep in the hospital where it is warm.
Oh damn.
Oy.
Superman saying that.
I told you that. I told you that.
Hold on, hurry. I told you the threesome would be rough, but you kept saying, I'm Batman. Okay, that's good.
That's great. Oh boy. Okay, tough guy, take your best shot. If you're wearing protection during sex, Are your condoms laced with kryptonite? Why? It has
Kinda
pincers.
have to be.
Why does it have pincers to grab onto you? And so Lois Lane was harshly reminded that Superman was, after all, an extraterrestrial.
Oh.
Oi, 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 oi. Where did this come from? I want to know who wrote that. Oh, boy.
Are you sure this doesn't make me look fat?
For the love of God, woman, it's the same outfit you wore yesterday. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. It's the let people enjoy things, morons. Let people enjoy things, motherfuckers. When I enjoy something they don't.
Or the opposite is let me dislike things when I dislike something they don't. So
It works either way, honestly.
Yeah, he was arguing against change is good. It's like, well, not all the time. There's context. You have to understand what's going on, and not every change is a good thing. As I made mention of Agatha Christie, and all the fans of Agatha Christie say no, Orient Express is not the best book she's written. It's just the most well known because of the ending.
Fair enough.
Shout out for Harold Allnuts, Batman's forgotten hunchback servant. That's right.
Yeah, and he's barely been referenced since.
Yeah.
And the last one from Seraph.
I have hired to stare at you.
I have hired Hatsune Miku to stare at you.
Oh. Why?
No more memes beyond this point. See
Yeah,
you all over.
and I'm just like, I'm just gonna try to make that a thing where it's like after we finish with the video, just put that so that we don't get more memes while we're looking at memes.
Yeah. Anyway, I mean, the video wasn't horrible. It was just kind of stupid.
Kinda.
Yeah.
Which is fine. You could have stupid video, but it's like, yeah, this is nothing new. His grammar wasn't very accurate.
Yeah.
His formulation of his arguments weren't very good. He has a point. It's just hard to get to it.
Because he has trouble formulating it himself, and that makes it a bit of a time waster.
Yeah, it's if he had perfect grammar, I'd be like, all right, let's try to figure this guy out. But he's just bitching about things on Reddit for 4 minutes. I'm like, no, forget it.
Yeah, and he draws out his sentences into endless additions of sub-sentences and still says nothing.
Yeah, unfortunately. Anyway,
It's like listening to somebody reading terms of service document.
yeah, I'm not even going to bother. Like, I've had some questions I wrote down. I was like, I'm not even going to bother posting this on his video. It's like, yeah, he'll grow out of this childlike way of thinking eventually. Won't need my help.
And one more thing from the Laughing Shadow in the Discord Smudcast discussion, clarifying that Peter had the black suit for a long time in universe, but that the 4 years he had it in the real world doesn't equate to 4 years in universe. It just he had it for much longer in universe, but 4 years in the real world.
Interesting.
So he got rid of it in '89 then.
Cool. All right. Anyway, that was a quick and dirty video as far as I'm concerned. It wasn't hard. It wasn't horrible.
It wasn't dog shit, but it wasn't a good argument either.
No, it wasn't good at all. But it was not drive you crazy sort of video, which is good because I'm having an awesome weekend. So it was a nice little pause in the awesomeness. So it's like, oh, I miss the thing I was doing before. Let's get back to that. Anyway, guys, thank you for the suggestion. We'll talk to you soon. Hopefully the weather's good where you're at. We can all talk later, maybe another few days. Who knows? Have yourself a good one. Good night.
Night.
Good night.